Hello, students. Welcome to this week's session. We are almost done with our semester, and please don't forget to review all your messages because for sure you now have your capstone project on the site. It will be due very close to the final exam date, so please review your capstone project instructions that you will have in your content section on Brightspace. So on this week we have a very interesting topic, which is the corporate governance. We will have 2 weeks of content. Actually, the last session would be devoted to a more practical, devoted on corporate governance and more focused on internal controls. What is an internal control? How would you apply it? Remember that this is more a general approach rather than the corporate governance is a super huge topic. You will see why. I encourage you to use all your resources. The book, it's very illustrative regarding this section, and you need to combine it with what I'm gonna teach you today on this session. We will start with some drawings before we get to the specific slide section. So let's see the drawing. So first of all, how are companies managed? And what is corporate governance? So guys, you know that there are a lot of hierarchies. First of all, I would like to explain why the reason of hierarchies in companies. The main reason is that if you have leader or maybe it's the CEO and you have one person communicating with the CEO, the communication will go both ways, right? And what if he contracts another person and another person and another person, another person, another person, another person, which constantly it's what he elects as executives in a company, no? Maybe it's the C-suite, what it's commonly known, the C-suite, which is the chief financial officer, chief technology officer, commercial officer, etc. So what happens if the communication goes on this type of form? If you put a little bit of thinking in that, you know that the communication flows between one person and another, and your CEO will have a very uniform standard way of getting that information. So, but what happens if in some point these two parties are able to communicate and make decisions? And what happens if these two start to do the same? And then these two. And then what happens if to take decisions and make decisions important for the business operation? They start to move to the other side, no? Everybody starts communicating. So whenever the communication flow goes into the leader, you can get a lot of versions. The communication is not unified. Imagine this, applying this web that I just showed you to a huge company where there's a lot of employees. So imagine how the communication flow would be and how the leader would process that information. that would make it would make the communication very difficult, because at the end you would have three different versions of what the people said, no? So this is the main reason why there's hierarchies. This is the most common accepted administration form. You will see it a lot in Anglo-American companies. So why was mainly the reason why it's that you will have a uniform flow of information. Why? Because this guy will communicate with this guy, with the leader, and back and forth, but you will have only a different version of whom? Of the expert of that section, no? The CFO, which is the expert of the finance department, the CTO, the expert in the technology department, the CCO, the commercial officer. So I think you understand the points. So I have to show you how it works in large corporations before we start. What is corporate governance? So on every single company, I don't know if you can reply the name. I don't know if you would have a CFO, a CTO in your company, but what we can all agree is that you will have in a company something called a CEO, the guy that runs the company, right? But is he the only one that makes decision in a company? Well, you have other players, and the bigger the company, the bigger the structure. So you would have in here someone called owners, right? Owners. Who are the owners? Well, all the ones that possess the rights to the economic benefits of the company, the owners of the assets of that company. And we will have something in here called advisors. Who are the advisors? Well, there's a bunch of people that have a special relation with the owners that advise them to invest in here or something related to what's happening to the company. And above the CEO, you will have something called a board of directors. Okay. This is the most generic structure. Obviously, you will have different companies, different structures, but at the end, this is the like the most generic and general structure. You will see a lot of you will for sure see in big companies advisors, board of directors. You will have the C-suite level. So below the C-suite level, what do we have? We have executives. Okay. Who are the executives? Well, it's the ones that we just mentioned, like the CFO, the CTO, all the C level or the senior staff from the company. And below the executives, what do we have? Well, the employees, right? Employees. So at the end, if you see the general structure of companies, please, I ask you, who runs the company? Who makes the decisions? Okay, so let me tell you that in here we have what it's called the corporate governance, the head of the corporate governance, right? I will explain further, but just let me take because in here the key position that I want to reflect on these drawings that I'm showing you is that what happens with the CEO? He's in charge of his executives and the employees, but he also must manage all the relations with the owners. At the end, the owners are the ones that elect the board of directors, and the board of directors are the ones that elect the CEO. So the CEO has a risk by managing the open relations that he has, and at the same time he has the risk by managing the relations with the lower people, which are the executives and employees that are also elect the CEO. And how do they elect the CEO? By attending to the job. Why attend to the job? Because if they wouldn't believe on that guy and on the CEO, on what he's and how is he managing, they just would stop attending to their work, and probably that CEO would get fired. So this shows the relationship between the CEOs, owners, and the risk and employees. And the big question in here is, who runs the company? What is the corporate governance? Okay, I will make a little bit of more drawings before getting into the official academic content, but I wanted to show you that this is like the most generic way of creating companies that are medium to big size. Okay, I will explain it further. So imagine that you have in here a line drawing for all the CEOs around the world. Okay, this is CEO of Apple, CEO of Apple. And this is the CEO of the pizza nearby the street. Okay, so this is the most typical structure. Every company started this way by the owners running the company. General Electric started that way. Anahuac started that way. So at the end, what happens is that this relationship increases, and at the end, companies, and this is a behavior that we will watch in public companies, is that the owners at the end are not related with the CEOs. Why? Because you will have a lot of intermediaries, which is the structure I just gave you. Why? You will have advisors, and you will have the board of directors. And the question in here is that at the end is who elects this board of directors, and at the end is the people that is putting the money. In here you will have funds, private equity funds, institutional investors that elect this board of directors, and they put the CEO. But really the owners are not that well reflected on if they are making the final decisions. And we're speaking that a public company as Apple compared to a structure of a very low-ended company. Okay, And the why I'm drawing this chart is that if you notice, the owners and the CEO at the beginning are very close. Maybe the same owner is the one that runs the company and the decisions. So we don't have any issues relating of communication, strategy, the goals that they want to achieve, because the same owner is the one that is taking the decisions to run the business. So, but the larger the company, as you're watching here, the greater the structure different between the owners and who is actually making the decisions on how to run the company. So we have a huge risk in here, and that's what I'm hoping that you understand. Why? Because if you are the owner, I would ask you who is running the company, you as the owner of your CEO or your CEO. And how would you manage? This is the biggest question: is how will you manage to make your CEO aligned as owner to what you want to achieve? Because maybe your CEO is attached to compensations, to variable compensations. If he performs well, he will receive a huge bonus, and that doesn't really means that that the way that he performed on and getting those key indicators that he managed to achieve are aligned to what you wanted as owner for your company. Okay, so this a little reflection. Let's go to the academic content. So corporate governance. Corporate governance is the system by which a company is directed and controlled. Why? The objective is to make better decisions, informed decisions, and avoid some biases from the owners of the company. So it's not simply a compliance and regulatory issue. It's governance enables business to make more successful decision-making processes. So as you might see in the chart below, you will have objectives from the shareholders and objectives from the directors. And the importance of this chart is that corporate governance is basically to find a way to match both of these objectives and to mitigate risk that make some decision making diverse or go from a different path or from those objectives. So the first issue that we have related to corporate governance is agency problem. It's a very important definition that you need to take care. But basically, an agency problem is that how would you make a person make what you want if he's an employee? Be very philosophical with this issue. Like, I think it's a very matter of reasoning. If I paid you on a monthly basis $10,000 on a monthly basis, you know that whatever happens, if I don't fire you from my company, by the end of the month, you would have $10,000. So what is your incentive to perform well, to do a better job. At the end, you could not do anything and just extend your hand and receive by the end of the month $10,000. Well, that's the agency problem. Corporate governance mitigates a lot of risks. One of them being, and one of the most important ones, are the agency problems. So how would you start to mitigate the agency problem? Well, you will do a board structure. So the main objective of this board structure is to make your operative or your management board compliant to your objectives. So in here we have two structures. The first one, it's a little bit rare. There are a lot of corporate governance models, guys. I'm not entering into. We have the German ones, the French ones, the Japanese ones. The common ones are the Anglo-American. We will review the Anglo-American model, and as you will see, the important is to mitigate risk. As I told you, the first issue or the first risk that you would have is the agency problem from any employee, even the CEO. If he's an employee who has a recurrent salary, how would you mitigate he not wanting to work? So what you want, how would you first of all identify what's the risk that you have as a business owner? In here we have something that the IAS, which is the internal auditing standards, have exposed as the risk triangle. The risk triangle, what the main purpose is to show how would you determine that you are in a position of risk. And we can have a lot of examples, right? For instance, the main factors is that you have something called exposure. The other thing, it's called vulnerability, which is mainly due to the lack of internal control. The exposure means that you're exposed to a situation that it's favorable for you to be in a position of risk. And at the end is the hazard, that you have something particular. I know it's a little bit dizzy, but I think with this example, it will be very clear. You know that there are a lot of companies that have cashiers, right? Cashiers that receive money, put it into the cash, into the bank, and it will go to your accounting system, right? But that cashier has an exposure. What is the exposure? He's exposed to receive money and actually having the risk of that money being steal, or maybe it's in a position of he can steal that money. Okay, that's exposure. And vulnerability means the lack of internal controls. So internal control by definition is that you will put procedures into your company to mitigate exposure situations. Like, for example, if you're a cashier, what if I do a daily checkup and we check that the total sales done by the day match with the cash that you have? that would mitigate that you steal money if you are the cashier. So what happens if the company doesn't put internal controls into processes like this? You could have the second piece of the risk triangle engaged. So we have an exposure situation where the cashier, it's exposed just by the definition of his position. He has exposure because he's in constant exchange of cash, of money. And then we have vulnerability because in that company, we are in a situation where the executive board doesn't have internal control. So they don't do an internal procedure or internal controls where they check the daily cash. Okay, we have a second piece of the risk triangle. And by the end of the day, imagine that you are the cashier and that your wife or your life partner got sick and he's in the hospital. And all the procedures to get him healthy are very expensive. So you are in a constant exposure situation. You have a lack of internal controls from that company. And now you're being into a situation where maybe it's better for you to be fired, or maybe you can resist going to jail rather than having your life partner sick and pay for their health insurance or the hospital expenses. So you will be completing the triangle section, and maybe if you are the cashier, you will take the money from the company. So I just wanted to illustrate what is the risk triangle and what is corporate governance, which is basically a way to find internal controls, internal procedures, internal culture. Also, culture is very important also for this, that will help to mitigate risks like the ANC risk in executive positions. And another one of the main risks that we will find is that, and probably is one of the biggest ones, because for sure this is a very interesting topic, but you will be seeing a lot of cases of lack of corporate governance, even in public companies. Is that common that we right now, you can watch it and take a look at it. We have the FTX issue, bankruptcy issue, which is a cryptocurrency exchange platform where there was a lack of corporate governance. That basically what they were doing is that rather than having business use of funds where you can trade, and that trade is supported by the liquidity fund that, I don't know, maybe if you're trading 1, 2, 3 billion US dollars worth of cryptocurrencies, and you want to liquidate or one of those 3 billions because you need the cash. what they actually were doing is requesting loans to provide to their platform with that liquidity, and at the end, well, all the users were very happy, because at the end, if they wanted to receive money back from the cryptocurrency exchange trading, they will be granted by the FTX. But what was happening is that they were accumulating a lot of debt, and you would question why or how it was it that they needed to request loans. The main reason is that the executives had a lot of expenses with yachts, a lot of parties, expensive houses, with salaries way beyond an average CEO from a public company. So you would question, how would that happen? Well, the main reason is that you have a lack of corporate governance. So, and one of the main risks, I know that the cashier situation, it's a little bit extravagant, but at the end, if a cashier steals, okay, I think there's ways of managing that part. But what if the vision of the owners doesn't comply with the vision of the person that is running the business? Could you imagine what would happen? So what I want to teach you on this first corporate governance class is what are the ways to mitigate this huge risk that we have, which I consider it's one of the biggest issues from companies, and what are the best practices to mitigate it. So as you might see here in the picture, you would have like the vision and mission that actually is created by the owner, and the CEO, it's the one that executes and creates the strategy in order to achieve those indicators, that vision, that mission. So so we have in here the Anglo-American model. This is a little bit of I know that the science approach is the most proven method of administration, but this is where a little bit of art comes into matter, because if there was a proven model that worked for everyone, I just had to teach you that model, and that's it, no? So the Anglo-American model is the what it's called the shareholder-oriented model, which is that the shareholders' rights are recognized, and they are given power to elect all board members. Remember, we have the owners, and then we have the board members, and the board members direct the management of the company. Board members, the CEO, the C-suite, and the company is run by professional managers with knowledge and skill to manage a business. So disclosure norms are comprehensive, and rules against insider trading or any other fraudulent activities are tight, which is the corporate governance that I want to teach you in the next class, which is the internal controls that we will mention further. So it mentions clear responsibility chart according to the organization structure. So one of the main tools that companies use to avoid this risk of misalignment between owners and the executives that are running the company. It's called a Balance Scorecard, which is an integrated strategic planning and performance management system that communicates with clarity and organization's vision, mission, strategy to employees and other stakeholders. It aligns day-to-day work to the vision strategy. It provides a framework for prioritization of programs, projects, services, products, and resources, and it uses strategic performance measures and targets to measure progress. This is a good example of what it's a balanced scorecard. So who puts the vision and the mission, which is the main goal of the company? Well, the mission and vision is created by the owners. They establish what they want to achieve, and what they do is that they create a lot of sessions, work sessions with the CEO in order to align this mission and vision. And what the CEO has to do is to create a specific programs, strategies in order to achieve the mission and the vision of the company. In that process, they also establish measures and targets to measure that how he is performing related to achieving that mission and vision. And in this way, and in these sessions, they are aligning what the owners want with what the CEO has to do strategically and in prioritization order also. So they would target what the owners consider that it's the key things to do in order to achieve what they want. So in here we have the sections like strategic objectives and a strategy map, where you have who are the stakeholders, what are the measures, the targets to achieve on this year, and what are the main initiatives to achieve. So, and we have a relationship with stakeholders. We have a financial measures. You have business processes and organizational capacity. There's a lot of areas that you can elect to have in your balance scorecard. But the biggest and key component for you guys to know about this corporate governance and how to mitigate one of the biggest risks that you would have on any company is that the balance scorecard is a great process to avoid misalignments between your executives and operative managing board and who actually owns the company. Okay, how would you do it? In summarizing everything that I just told you on this session is that you would incur in with the administration company. You would incur into sessions. You will gather with them into sessions where you would tell them, this is the mission, the vision, and this is what I want to achieve. And please tell me on the different areas from the company, from a financial perspective, from the commercial perspective, from the technological perspective, what are the main initiatives that we need to achieve what are the main targets, KPIs, don't forget into the KPIs, key performance indicators, and so we can measure what is the progress on those initiatives and how we will measure those initiatives. So I hope this first section of corporate governance was a little bit of help. Don't forget to watch your capstone project guides and instructions so you can nail it for the next week, as the next week is our last session. So thank you very much. We won't be having for this section our usual weekly quiz. We will have it for the next section, so we can include both of the sections, and so you can focus towards your capstone project, so you can deliver a great project. As be very careful, as it has a 30% weight of towards your final grading. So thank you very much, and see you next week. Bye bye.